Okay, so here is my Swamp Thing long box in all its glory. And I'm going to do some videos just kind of highlighting some different eras of Swamp Thing, starting with Volume 1, and then I'm going to break up Volume 2 in a couple different videos. And I probably will do Volume 3 and Volume 4 together in another video. So I just wanted to quick show you this collection. These are all Swamp Thing. It is probably all but 20 issues. Anything that I don't have in this box, I have in trade paperback. So I have every single issue of Swamp Thing, just not every single issue, floppy cover issue. So the earliest Swamp Thing I have is issue 6, and I really got to get Mylar. These are pretty new poly bags, but I really got to get in on Mylar here. Just kind of showing you some of these early runs. This is issue 8, issue 12, issue 11, out of order. There's another issue 12. Len Wein was supposed to come to a shop near me, and I was going to go get some of these doubles signed. These, I got the full run after 13. I got some doubles. These are in pretty good shape, all things considered, these early first volume Swamp Things. I got 16, 17. I mean, they're in real good shape. I wouldn't know what grade to put on them, but at least fine or better. Not saying that they're worth a whole lot, but there's some interesting stuff here. Gary Conway got into writing. And that's issue 23, and then here's issue 24. I don't know if that's Mongol or what. That's the last issue of Swamp Thing for the first volume. This is the first Swamp Thing comic I ever owned. One of the first comic books I ever owned. This is Swamp Thing Annual number 1, 1982. And there was the first issue of Swamp Thing. Here was an interesting cover with Dick Durock from the movie on the cover. These are the Volume 2, which started in 1982. So about 10 years after they rebooted it because of the success, or they wanted to ride the success of the movie. There's an interesting cover. This little girl, she was some telepathic demon. It was really wacky. This was by, I think his name, Martin Pasco. He wrote all the way to issue 19. I got this entire run of Pasco. There's Phantom Stranger on the cover of Swamp Thing. That was Volume 2, issue 14. Some guy named Dan Mishkin took over for a couple issues for that crossover. Then Pasco jumped back in. This was an issue where Swamp Thing found this little town that they wore these masks, and when they wore them, he appeared as his former self, Alex Holland, and it was really bizarre. There's Matt Cable gets reintroduced. That was the last issue of Pasco's run, and this is my first Alan Moore issue, so it's not till issue 33. This is issue 19, this is issue 33, and there's one of my favorite Swamp Thing covers, issue 34. Issue 33 is a kind of like a version of House of Secret, which was the first Swamp Thing story ever told. It was back a year before they launched the original series. So a lot of these are Alan Moore issues, American Gothic run. there we got a winner of 2 1984 Eagle Awards. So you see Swamp Thing was taking off as a book. Swamp Thing and the American flag behind him. Still part of the American Gothic run. Some really cool covers. This is a Crisis cover. That was all during Crisis on Infinite Earths. And I love this issue, Down Amongst the Dead Men. We got into some wacky cover there by John Totleben. Swamp Thing Annual. Then we got into Rick Veitch's run. Some interesting stuff. Time travel. There is Constantine. Smoking by that tree. Here's a cool cover. Swamp Think. Romance cover. Looks like a romance novel. It was an interesting story. I'll get to a lot of like what went on in a lot of these books when I show some of them. It was John had to take on, or Swamp Thing invaded John's body and had to impregnate Abby to have their child. Swamp Thing Annual. This is annual number 4, Batman. Got a couple issues of this Swamp Thing with Superman fighting this long box here. Give me 1 second. This was part of the Invasion crossover. Sergeant Sergeant Rock, something like that. This is a cool cover. This is when Matt Cable's dying. Then we get to some of this Rick Veitch time travel stuff. There's some trippy stuff. And of course, they abruptly had to end it. There was a controversy there, something else I'll talk about. Annual number 5. And then we get into Doug Wheeler, and he does this run, getting this big, epic story regarding kind of like what we heard with Snyder and company with the Gray. It was this big event. It was, you know, big idea, kind of fell short. And it went for a few issues. He probably was on the title for a couple of years. Then we got Nancy Collins. She kind of took Swamp Thing back to the swamp and dealt with more horror stories. As you can tell by that cover. There's Lady Jane. She was introduced as kind of the caretaker for Swamp Thing and Abby's kid, Tefe. Arcane came back. So anyway, this all the way to Mark Millar's run. There's an issue by Grant Morrison and Mark Millar. Grant Morrison was co-writing for a few issues. But I also got back here some Swamp Thing Volume 3. And like I said, I'll show a lot of these covers. Started Swamp Thing Volume 4, Andy Diggle. And that went on for about 29 issues. So anyway, this is just kind of the introduction video. I just wanted to show you guys my Swamp Thing long box. Just some of the issues that I had. And I will definitely get these videos going here probably next week. And we'll just kind of break them up, and I'll show off some of my favorite covers and talk about some of my favorite stories. So, all right. Well, thanks for checking it out. We'll see you guys soon.